having me. It's such a pleasure to be with you all and to be talking about what really is a global homeschooling moment. I think Erica made the point quite clearly that although this is a crisis moment for so many of us and so stressful and anxiety inducing around the world, it also is an incredible moment for homeschooling. Parents and leaders are being to try to help parents. And so I know that, one of the things I've been focused on is really presenting the message that what we're experiencing is nothing like authentic homeschooling. I am a homeschooling mother of 4 children here in Cambridge, Massachusetts, in the United States. And, what we're experiencing now is very much what everyone is experiencing in terms of being cut off from our community and distanced from the people, places, and things of our broader neighborhoods. And so this is nothing like authentic homeschoolers. Homeschoolers, as we all know, of course, are far from isolated and are, immersed authentically again in real socialization in our communities. So this is difficult for everybody. But, one of the points that I've been trying to make is that even though this is nothing like authentic homeschooling, I do think families can get a glimpse, albeit very stressful and under difficult circumstances, of what learning alongside children can be like and what learning without schooling can look like. And this is where, as I think Michael mentioned and Erica mentioned, families are starting to question schooling. There's my social media feeds I know are filling with parents who are saying, wow, this isn't as bad as I thought, or I've always wanted to try homeschooling, but I lacked that catalyst, that inertia to make it happen. And now I have this opportunity and it's going really well. And I can't imagine sending my child back to school. I think one of the things that, as difficult a time as this is, one of the things that's really special is seeing the tremendous online learning resources that are sprouting daily, most of which really are free. And so I think it's giving families an opportunity to see the ways in which you can facilitate a child's learning without feeling like you have to be the primary instructor all the time. I mean, one of the things that's really been inspiring for me is to see these, world famous authors and illustrators offering daily workshops, reading their stories to children or providing illustration workshops for families. You're seeing daily concerts being offered around the world, live streamed. 2,500 museums around the world have free virtual tours. So I think it's a way of presenting this message to families that there's so much learning to be had now, so many ideas to explore that we may not have had a chance to do under other circumstances. And I think that's a key piece of our role as homeschool leaders, is to really push back, I think, on sort of the dominant narrative that we're seeing around learning loss that's occurring during coronavirus, or the idea that this is an educational calamity because young people are not in school. And instead turn that around to say, look at how much learning can be gained, not only using the vast resources of these online learning materials, but also just being together with family and reconnecting with children and encouraging children to pursue their interests and their passions outside of schooling. I have a neighbor whose child goes to public elementary school, and she has been just astounded at how her child has been rekindling a lot of that curiosity that she has sort of lost over the time in school, reading books that she's really passionate about and writing short stories that are meaningful to her. And I think parents are getting glimpses of this. So the message for us as homeschool leaders to other parents who are dealing with this crisis is obviously not to minimize the difficult experiencing. This is a challenging time for all of us. but also to encourage them to not worry so much about what their children are losing, and instead encourage them to see what their children can gain and what they can gain as a family. And one of the great stories that I've been trying to spotlight that I think illustrates this is the story of Isaac Newton, who back in the 17th century was a college student during the bubonic plague that hit London, actually killed a quarter of the London population in only 18 months. And during that epidemic, Isaac Newton, like other college students, fled to his childhood home. And it would be called his year of wonders, because when he was home, away from college, away from professors and assignments, he was able to do his most creative work. He would say it would be the peak of his intellectual discovery, and it would be the foundation for his science discoveries over the coming years, including his theory of gravity, his theory of optics, discovering integral and differential mathematics, calculus. So, I think that's a great story for us to also take away and to spread for other homeschoolers and parents curious about homeschooling, is instead of this being a time of decay or a time of learning loss, this could be a time of maximum productivity and creativity, not only for children, but for parents as well. And that really, I think, is an inspirational message. So we don't want to minimize, again, the difficulties that parents are encountering. This is very difficult for all of us. But if we can try to be inspirational and say that there can be so much to learn and so much more that we can be exploring during this time, I think that can really be a full message, because I do think that after this pandemic ends, there will be more parents who are curious about alternatives to school, whether that's homeschooling or virtual schooling or other types of innovative models around schooling. There will be more parental demand, I think, for educational freedom. And we can help to support those parents and those policies. And for policymakers, I think along those lines, it would be things like, again, encouraging education choice mechanisms for families, to put families back in charge of their child's education. And also, we're seeing in all kinds of industries, healthcare most specifically, around loosening many of these regulations and not allowing for experimentation, innovation, and invention. I think we should encourage the same thing from a policy level with education. And we've seen compulsory attendance laws, for example, being loosened during this pandemic. And that would be something, again, that we could encourage to have continued post-pandemic, to allow for a lot of this educational innovation and experimentation that would sprout when individuals, families, and organizations are given that free. So, a difficult time for everybody, but I do think we can present an inspiring message and really look at this as a moment to empower families.